Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with our main topic today. We're discussing President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's meeting and receiving on Wednesday a high-level delegation from the Democratic and Republican parties in the Congress, U.S. Congress. We're going to shed light on this topic. So we have the pleasure to have with us over the phone Ambassador Hussein Haridy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good morning, Your Excellency.
Good morning, Madam.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Haridy, before we go to the importance of this meeting on the political side, we would like to focus on the importance of this meeting concerning the economic level, because economy is now the thing or the file that the whole world is speaking about and wants to boost. Any country wants to boost its economy, and actually President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is always keen on boosting the economy and especially attracting investment to Egypt.
Definitely economic questions in these kinds of meetings are touched upon, but they are not the sole question or the sole subject that is being discussed.
Yes, of course.
These congressional visits usually come in the context of the recess of the United States Congress. The United States Congress is actually in what's known as the summer recess. And during this recess, the members of various committees, whether in the House of Representatives or in the U.S. Senate, make a point of touring the countries that come under their mandate in the various committees, whether they chair or they are members in this committee. And these congressional visits always include senators and representatives from both parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Yesterday, the U.S. congressional delegation included very important figures in the United States Congress. Senator Robert Menendez, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, as well as Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Menendez is a Democrat, and whereas Senator Graham is a Republican from South Carolina. And he is a leading figure in the Senate, as well as within the Republican Party, as well as, of course, other members from both parties. These visits, these talks, these meetings with the president and with other senior officials or public personalities, public figures in Egypt are important because it gives the congressional delegation in question the opportunity to understand where does Egypt stand on major regional questions, like the situation in Sudan, in Libya, in the West Bank, for instance. And on the other hand, to discuss some internal questions as far as Egypt is concerned, whether it's the economy or the human rights record of the Egyptian government, or any other questions that comes within the purview of the committees, the congressional committees that members of the delegation are drawn from.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Haridy, also during the meeting, both sides expressed their keenness on boosting bilateral relations, which was there already a successful relations between Egypt and U.S. For over decades and reflected the two countries' keenness to boost the relations forward in all levels. What about the political relations between both countries?
Well, both sides, the Egyptian side and the American side, value the strategic partnership that has existed between the United States and Egypt for almost it's now, from 1979 onwards. And both countries have joint interests in security, stability, and peace in the Middle East. And I guess in these meetings, like the meeting that took place yesterday, normally the question of bilateral relations between the two countries, anything related to this topic is discussed in a friendly context. So I personally believe that these meetings are very important because it provides the American delegation with an idea of where Egypt stands on various questions, whether we are speaking about Egyptian-American relations or the situation, the regional situation. But these visits usually take place twice a year during the winter recess and the summer recess of the United States Congress. And as far as Senator Menendez, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, this is the second time he visited Egypt this year. I remember that he was here a couple of months ago, maybe less than 2 months ago, and he met with the Egyptian president.
Yes. Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Haridy, also the delegation also expressed the state's appreciation for Egypt's role in the Middle East and providing stability to the region. And they spoke of about Ukraine, Sudan, Libya, and Syria. How does this express the one stance that Egypt and the states have concerning these countries?
Well, we have to take into account, Madam, that this visit is not, the congressional visit is not only limited to Egypt. This congressional delegation would visit other countries in the Middle East.
Yes, yes.
I wouldn't call it a fact-finding mission as such, because it's not a fact-finding mission, but it's almost a routine yearly visit by members of both political parties represented in the United States Congress, and they tour the Middle East in order to have a clearer idea, an up-to-date idea of where the countries of the Middle East do stand on the issues that are of major interest
Yes.
to the United States. So the questions of the various regional questions are discussed, not necessarily in a deep way, but they are reviewed not only in Cairo, but in other Middle Eastern capitals, ma'am.
Yes, and actually concerning Sudan, Egypt have announced that it's going to start a flight on a daily basis for Sudan every day. It would return the flight to the Egypt Air, have announced this yesterday, starting from tomorrow, the 1st of September. Also the meeting also discussed the the Renaissance Dam or the Dam of Ethiopia and the development in the negotiations that were taking place. There was a big effort exerted for over 10 years on the diplomatic side. And it was clear and efforts exerted by the foreign minister, of course, Sameh Shukri. They discussed also the filling of and operating of the dam. If you please, could you shed light on this point, please?
Well, definitely the American Congressional delegation was interested in listening to the Egyptian point of view concerning the Renaissance Dam. And as the statement by the Egyptian presidency pointed out, the Egyptian president reiterated where Egypt stands on the issue. And of course, the visit of the congressional delegation coincided with the resumption of negotiations among the three concerned parties, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia, negotiations that took place in Cairo just recently. So
Yes.
I believe that this is a question that is of concern, of interest to the United States administration.
Yes.
And let's hope that the three countries would reach a satisfactory solution to the outstanding differences concerning the operation and the filling and the operations of the Renaissance Dam.
Yes. Also, the meeting also tackled Egypt's efforts in combating terrorism and extremism, as well as boosting human rights. The point of terrorism and Egypt fighting terrorism, this point we'd like to focus on, please.
Well, yes, I definitely, both the United States and Egypt have common interest in fighting, not only fighting terrorism, but defeating it. It all depends on the definition of each country for what is terrorism. But anyhow, we have been a member in the international coalition to defeat the so-called Islamic State organization, Daesh, in both Iraq and Syria. Of course, Egypt has a special take on how to fight terrorist and extremist groups. Maybe it's not widely shared by the American administration, but we always highlight the necessity and the importance of fighting these groups everywhere, not only in the Middle East, but also in North Africa and in Sub-Saharan Africa and in other parts on the African continent where terrorist groups are operating. So, of course, it's a topic that always discussed whenever Egyptian and American officials get together.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Haridy, how do you see the timing of this visit?
No, as I said earlier, madam, these are routine visits. This is the United States Congress is in the summer recess, and the tradition, as the congressional tradition, during the recess of the United States Congress, various committees members, particularly those committees that, for instance, the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee, they take this opportunity of the recess to tour the countries that come under their mandate in the committee. So if I take the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee. This is the whole committee. This is the whole committee, the General Committee, and then there are subcommittees. There is a subcommittee on the Middle East. There is another subcommittee on let's say, on the Far East or on South Asia. So the members of these committees and subcommittees usually during the recess or the Christmas recess in December, they usually take this opportunity and make visits to these countries. There is another point that I would like to highlight.
Yes,
and these congressional visits don't only limit their discussions with officials or leaders of the countries they visit, but also they have meetings with public figures, with opposition leaders. So the main purpose of these visits is to gather information. Whether on the countries that they discuss during their meetings when the Congress is back, or how do these countries view questions that are of main interest to American strategy, whether in the Middle East or in South Asia or in the Indo-Pacific. So it's the main purpose of these visits, madam, is to gather information, to exchange points of views, to let's say, monitor, because of course they do compare notes with their previous visits. So
yes.
it's something that takes place every year, every 6 months or every 4 months.
Yes. So, Your Excellency Ambassador Haridy, what do we expect after this visit? What would be the outcome of or the result of this visit? And also, the second part of my question is: were there any agreements signed or memorandum of understandings? Please.
No.
No.
Usually, this is a congressional visit,
Yes,
madam,
yes.
and of course,
there's no agreement signed. Yes.
There were no.
What do we expect after the visit? What will
nothing.
be the result?
We have to wait until questions concerning Egypt or concerning the Middle East comes up to discussions in the meetings of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee or the equivalent committee in the House of Representatives, and definitely there were other members in the U.S. congressional delegation, maybe from the Appropriations Committee, and the Appropriations Committee is very, very important in Egypt because it's the committee that agrees on the financial assistance, American financial assistance to foreign countries. Yes. So the results of these visits, whether to Egypt or to other countries, remain to be seen, and we have to wait until these committees resume their work when the Congress is back in Washington in September. Let's wait and see what the outcome of the meetings and whether Egyptian explanations, whether on Egyptian domestic politics or on human rights, on the record of human rights in Egypt, have been well taken by the American side or not. So, personally speaking, I cannot say what the results of this meeting are until these committees get back to work. And we'll see if they adopt any decisions concerning Egypt or financial assistance to Egypt, and only then we'll know whether the members of the American delegation were convinced by Egyptian arguments or not.
Yes. So, Your Excellency, Ambassador Haridy, also we said that they spoke about Sudan and also about Libya and about Syria. What about Palestine, as Egypt, of course, through the history and nowadays also is playing a big role concerning Palestine and the situation in Gaza, and Egypt is always supporting Palestine and providing humanitarian aids and medical supplies to Gaza. So what about this point?
Well, my lady, let me be frank with you, frank and honest with you. The Egyptian position concerning the Palestinian question is well known in Washington.
Yes.
And the American position vis-a-vis the same question is well known in Cairo.
Well known.
From an American point of view, we know American commitments to what in Washington is called the security of the State of Israel.
Yes.
And when we speak about the Palestinian question in such context, we have to be clear in our minds what we are discussing.
Yes.
Of course, as I said, there is an Egyptian point of view. It's well known, and it's well known on the part of the American side, whether the administration or the United States Congress. And as well as we know, we the Egyptian side is fully aware of the American position vis-a-vis Israel and the Palestinian question.
Yes,
right now, the main concern from an American point of view is stability in the occupied territories.
Yes, that's what I meant, because Egypt is always mediating in order to calm the situation in Gaza Strip. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information, Ambassador Hussein Haridy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much for joining us over the phone. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break and I'm going to be back with you.